Hey, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Delivery Layer podcast, where we've got Howard Koenig on. He is the CEO of a data company called Perspecta, and we have an amazing conversation about data as a service businesses and the opportunities that there are in the market for many companies to be able to offer these data as a service products. Excited? And let's jump in. So, Howard, I'm really excited for this conversation because you've got such a good sense of sort of the business of technology and data. And one of the things that I know you are extremely excited about is the world of DaaS, so data as a service. For people that don't know in the audience, can you sort of explain what DaaS is and then talk a little bit about why you're so excited about it?
Sure. Well, the best analogy is to go back to software as a service. Software as a service really came out of people had their own software. It resided on their own computers, and they had a single-use application for it. And it was really inefficient. So companies that sold those solutions put those into shared environments and then ultimately the cloud to facilitate customers and prospects and users to access it from any browser anywhere, but the software would be in the cloud somewhere. And it's a similar analogy with data as a service. The data is very valuable. Not everybody can store that data on their own computers or for themselves. And because of the value, many people want to access it for a bunch of different reasons. And data as a service allows via an API or some other mechanism to allow users to identify what data they want, to access that data, and to use it for the purposes that they need. And it's really on demand, and it's really personalized to their particular usage. And in traditional applications, that's not possible. The data is stovepiped for single purposes. And I believe that data as a service is going to become the next generation of data usage for companies that want to add value around the data.
Got it. That's really interesting. So if there's a data person that is listening to this that's not as familiar with data as a service, what are some of the things that would make their company potentially be looking either on the acquisition side or on the product sales side to think that, hey, we might have an opportunity for some sort of DaaS integration?
Sure. That's an interesting question because people value data in many, many different ways. And the aggregation of data from multiple data sources can make it much more valuable. For example, if I had a scenario where I wanted to look at claims data for healthcare, if you were to overlay on that certain personas around who filed claims, who didn't file claims, how often they file claims, then that data becomes really valuable to insurance companies and other companies who were trying to foster predictive analytics or, additional usage of that data where, 1 + 1 = 5, not 2. So, it facilitates the sharing of data across multiple logical views of that data. And that's what really becomes valuable. So companies, to your point, companies can create whole other lines of business just from the data and the aggregation and manipulation of it. And I believe that could really transform certain business models.
That's great. I know Perspecta, where you're the CEO, is a really interesting company in the healthcare data space, and you've got essentially a DaaS business in many ways. Can you sort of share with the audience what is Perspecta and how you operate in this DaaS space?
Sure. We have a provider data vault, and that provider data is a really big problem. Physicians and other participants in the healthcare space are constantly evolving their practices, what insurance they participate in, where they physically are. And that's very hard to maintain. And it's a big problem when you say, oh, I want to look up an orthopedic surgeon because I need surgery on my wrist. And the guy or the gal is no longer accepting new patients or doesn't accept your insurance or only accepts your insurance at certain locations. So we have the world's best repository of that data, and we make it available to payers, insurers, and other participants if they have a need to access that data. And we're finding that both the usage of the data as well as the combination of that data is very, very valuable to all the constituents in the healthcare value chain.
Yeah, it's super interesting. And one of the things I imagine that most people don't think through is how challenging of a data problem something like that is, right? Because how do you even track that? So before a company like Perspecta, was everybody doing this in-house themselves? How did they even navigate this type of problem?
Well, historically, the data has been really inaccurate. We've seen situations where the company has only about a 50% accuracy rate. And they've learned to live with that. But when you can show them the tools to make it accurate, to cleanse that data, to augment that data, they're very excited about how do they upgrade their data. So, there are instances of early adopters of data as a service, late adopters, but the bottom line is the industry direction is to have accurate data that's available quickly. And we can facilitate that, and we do.
Yeah. And it's really interesting because, and I think it's as true in software and data, where I've heard a lot of people, you obviously look at the explosion of companies, both data companies and software companies, and there's this idea around that, oh, there's no more opportunities left, and people have already taken all of the things to do are already done. So why would you start another data company or start a new product line? And I think that what is unappreciated is how much these types of specialty solutions don't exist in literally every single market. There's something. And so, yeah, there's there's a database, there's sort of like big pieces of the pie that exist, but there's so much like healthcare data quality where for providers where there's probably lots of opportunities to do more, and it would never make sense for a generalized company to operate there. And you just sort of like, there's tons of opportunities like that. I don't know. Do you see that in the market? Do you see that? Because you've been in the startup and technology world for a long time and have probably seen many people call the top of what, like, this is it. We don't need any more companies. Like, what's your experience with that?
Well, that's the easiest thing to say is there's no more opportunity. But I was just surprised in reading a receipt the other day And one of the footnotes was they look at return data to see if you're abusing it. And if you are abusing it with lots of returns, they can cease to sell to you and cease to allow returns. And they qualified that in the sense of, and that will facilitate us having a very liberal return policy in general. Now, who would have ever thought of analyzing return frequency by your customers and how valuable that is? But that's an example of something nobody thought about, 5 years ago, because it wasn't actionable. But now it is actionable. Obviously, they have a data warehouse or something like that where they can mine all the instances of what people purchased and what they returned. And so, you just have to think imaginatively about the use cases and how valuable they can be. And I'm positive there's a startup on the other side of that analysis that's just selling, hey, how much can we save you by making returns more intelligent? And that's like a perfect use case.
Yeah, totally. It's so interesting. It's like, yeah, I'm sure you could start something that was like a mix of product and professional services to analyze the return frequency of your customer base and then tailor a specific strategy that you can power via an API that would allow large retailers to optimize having as liberal of a policy they can without having people totally take advantage. So that's yeah, I love it. It's great.
Or raise the price for the abusers.
Sure.
Make them pay for it. If they want that ability, then maybe you feed it into your pricing algorithms.
I love it. And I'm only slightly nervous because in our house we order a lot and return a lot. Like if there's because I've got young kids, so sometimes you don't even know what size to get them. So it's like, what size coat do you need? Who knows? Let's order 3 of them and then return the 2 that don't fit. Right?
We have that same phenomenon in my house.
So
my wife will order, it in 2 or 3 sizes, particularly shoes, and then she sends them back.
Yeah. That's too funny.
It is.
All right. So going down this thread a little bit more, because, you and even, Perspecta is a mature business. You've been building data products since before the rise of the modern data ecosystem as we kind of know it today. So what are some of the things that have changed in the way that you see the landscape? And then what are some of the timeless things that have not changed and you don't expect to change?
Well, I think, if you're going to be doing a startup, you have to understand what your business model is and figure out how to, scale revenue and then scale the profitability. And that's a business model. And you have to have a sustainable business model. But when you layer on top of that the data opportunities from that business model, that's where it can really become very exciting, because you're developing multiple revenue streams around typically a traditional business model that would make you quite attractive for acquisition, investment, the multitude of uses, and what the valuation that they're willing to pay for that data or that whole company can really just multiply if you have use cases that are appropriate. So whereas a partner may be a partner for a certain element of your business, like if you want to monetize referrals, but the analytics around those referrals might be very, very different for, certain kinds of companies that are looking for patterns of usage or even waste and fraud and abuse. So, there really are multiple new revenue streams that can be identified that augment or even replace the traditional business models.
Got it. And how do you think about actually how much revenue is behind some of those? Because I've seen all sides of the spectrum here, where on the one hand, I've worked with this one company that they have probably the world's best data set in their domain. And by the way, there happens to be many, tens or hundreds of billions of dollars worth of companies that operate in that domain. And they're sitting there, this little tiny company with the world's best data, not even knowing what they have on their hands. And then on the opposite side of the spectrum, I've seen companies that are way over optimistic about the value of their sort of undifferentiated data set to like hedge funds or like some other big industry. How do you effectively calibrate what the opportunity is from some of those data sets?
Well, it actually is quite difficult because we were, for example, we were meeting with a broker in the insurance space, and they told us how expensive some of the data they wanted to buy was. And for example, they were buying a list, or list is, too minimal. They were buying data around insurance renewals, whose policies were expiring, so they'd know who to sell to. That data was very, very expensive. Yes, and it's expensive for a reason, because it's who you should be calling on. And, that's an example of, I
Yeah.
was surprised at what they're paying for the data. And then, I was dealing with my university, and they do a lot of analytics around healthcare and pharma and clinical trials. And they said, hey, could you donate some of the data? And sure, we could. That would be an instance where you're donating something that's very valuable. Now, I don't know the tax implications of that, but you really find that there's just such a variance in what the data is, what it can be monetized at, and the business models just are all over the place. So, but clearly, the more data you have, and the more you can intelligently aggregate it or disaggregate it, the more valuable it is.
Yeah. I totally agree. It's a mess, or it's not organized. It's like it's sort of like, and to the example of the leads that you gave, right? So if you think about it, Google is highly organized. They've got competitive keywords where if you're trying to get I remember reading this way back in the day. I'm sure the prices have only gone up since then, but it's like search terms on defibrillators are like $150 a pop. Like every single time someone clicks on it, like you're getting $150, because anybody who's searching for buying defibrillators is about to like whip out their credit card for a pretty large purchase, and it's a well understood market in that people are all bidding against each other up to where the value is. But in this market, in the data market, because there is almost no transparency, you'll have very similar data sources. Some of and some of them are going to be priced 10, 50x over the others, that you might be able to even get the same data, but you just don't understand the market well enough to know. And the people who are successful are probably more like probably get that pricing power because of the opaqueness, not even necessarily because their data is super, super special always.
Or they're creative enough to recognize that certain use cases are going to yield more value to someone.
Yeah.
Who that someone is constantly evolving. And, I go back to one man's trash is another man's treasure. And that just so aptly applies because, hey, I just go back to the insurance company example. The average person would say, I don't care when people's disability policy expires, but if I sell disability policies, that's like hugely valuable. So it's really the specific use cases by business.
And you know what's so interesting about this also is that it doesn't need to be complicated. It's about the problem that you solve. If you solve a problem in a simple way, well, that's probably better than if you solve it in a more complicated way. And this is something that data people, as you have experienced many times, I'm sure, there's this assumption that if you've got a big problem or a big challenging thing, that it needs some equally big challenging solution. No, maybe it's a simple solution, right? Like Spotify Wrapped, where they get this massive PR push at the end of every year, is just like a very simple SQL query, rank by popularity, right? It's not complicated to see what you've spent the most time on if you're tracking that, but it yields this huge value. Maybe the data doesn't need that much more work on it, and there is huge value there. So I really like that.
Well, no, and it may be as simple as finding the one data element on a form or PDF that's valuable to a business. And going back to the example I gave, could be expiration date of a policy. That's all you need.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no complications with that. And every insurance policy I've ever seen has the effective date and the expiration date.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just even, disaggregating the data from, one of the existing legacy systems. It could be mining the receivable data for expiration dates.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very simple.
One of the other sides of data businesses is that, like data businesses exist over time. And so, I was at Nielsen, right? Like Nielsen is 100-year-old data company. You've been leading companies that have been around for a while. So, and that always involves a lot of technology transformation. So like, how have you seen data transformation play out? I think there's such a explosion in data companies. Most people don't sort of see what's coming in terms of, all right, like there's a difference between a greenfield data project and a 7 or 8 year old data project and a 20-year-old data project. Like, how do those types of things change over time? And what are some of the ways that you've been able to effectively manage those businesses as they mature?
Yeah, Solomon, that's a great question because the data evolution has happened at the same time that the legacy applications are starting to evolve. In the old IT world, where you had mainframes and you had, purpose-built applications that ran on the mainframe that did a certain function, that data was largely not available. In fact, a lot of the data handling was in the COBOL or Fortran or, whatever language is built. And there wasn't an independent layer of accessing the data for other applications. It was quite difficult. But as enterprise systems evolved and became more broadly used, and as data warehouses evolved and data marts became more widely used, those applications really became more accessible to other applications, Or if they were really, really technically difficult, then the business owners and the IT folks said, "Oh, well, we can't access it through the application, but we'll put it into a data warehouse to facilitate access." So, legacy applications really did not facilitate data access. That's changed and evolved as those legacy applications get replaced and updated. And that's why you need good architects for contemporary applications. But it's also one of the drivers for data warehouses and data marts is to facilitate that access.
Yeah, that's great. That's really interesting. Okay, great. Well, Howard, I really appreciate your time today. I know we're sort of coming up. Is there, for people that want to follow you or for people that want to follow Perspecta, like, is there anywhere for them to see what you're doing?
Sure. Our URL is goperspecta.com. And I'm always open to LinkedIn invitations and want to collaborate with entrepreneurs who have an interest in data as a service. So,
all right, great. Well, Howard, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and have a great day.
We'll talk soon.